Hello, viewers of Moshpit Passion. My name is Kayo. Right next to me is the legendary Tommy Victor of Prong, and we'll do a special interview about the Prong history.
Oh, wow.
So, Tommy, your new and actual record, 0 Days, turns out 1 year. And I want to ask you, how is the feedback of the fans so far of that record?
Oh, man, the fan feedback has been sensational. I mean, it couldn't have been any better, I don't think. I mean, everyone's so into this record, so and I'm happy about that. I mean, we put a lot of time and energy into it.
So Prong was releasing every single year a record, like a studio record, live record, or cover record. But 2018 seems a little bit quiet. So are you planning something special for the next year, or is something coming around the winter, Christmas time?
Well, I got exhausted. I mean, there was so much going on. So I've been working on stuff. I mean, I've been thinking about it a lot. I demoed a bunch of songs, made demos of songs, and they're a little bit different. So we're just going to see if they're going to make the record. And then there's about 3 new ones that I started working on a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I'm thinking by March we'll have another record.
Yeah, so it will be a full studio record album, not a live record.
Yeah, probably. No, absolute studio original music. Yeah.
Okay, nice. In front of you, you see a box. Do you have maybe a clue what's in there?
A soccer ball.
Nearly. There are some Prong records of the past.
Oh, okay.
I will give you one, and maybe you tell something what comes up in your mind.
Okay,
sounds
perfect.
Good?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Right, and we start with...
Prove You Wrong. You know what, I'll just be honest with the fans on this one, or whoever cares. I didn't really like the studio we recorded this at. It was under the suggestion of our A&R guy who took over for the guy who signed us at Epic Records, and he wanted to go to the studio in Philadelphia, and Mark Dodson, the producer, didn't like the studio, and I didn't either, and I didn't like, there was really nothing about the sounds on that record I liked. I thought there was some really good songs on it. You know, Unconditional and Prove You Wrong being 2 of my favorites that we continue to play. But I think that the production of the record is not that great, but the songs are good.
Yeah, nice. So the next one, we will bring it to the 80s. The classic
This is the first one, Primitive Origins. Yeah, I mean, we're just talking about the original lineup with somebody while my guitar tech was asking me who the original guys are. Mike Kirkland, there's me as a young boy, and Ted Parsons. I mean, Prong was an accident. I mean, we got together in the essence of some friends getting together and playing, and it got so successful so fast that we decided to make a record and play shows, and it happened really, really fast. And by the time you know it, we were like popular and people were interested in the band. So I didn't really know what was going on at this point. We were just sort of art rockers on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, just being anarchists, and that's what happened.
So, did you know that a lot of hardcore bands give you a lot of credits for starting or be one of the first or second wave of New York hardcore?
Yeah, I mean, like the whole groove metal thing that eventually like Pantera got involved with, and Helmet. It sort of comes from Prong and in that era with the Bad Brains, a little after the Bad Brains, and there was a couple other bands. Like Leeway and Rest in Pieces, and then Prong, Crumbsuckers. We were part of this whole other little wave. But Prong was more like I said, more of an art rock band too. Like I think we were closer to groups like Rat R and Blind Idiot God. I know these other bands that you probably never heard of, and Helmet. Helmet were even more closer to those groups. So there was a little different niche that we were involved in, and then eventually, you know, Prong got more intrigued by metal. So, you know, by the time you know, Beg to Differ came out, you know, we had more of a metal sound.
Mm. Yeah. For instance, I met Andreas Kisser of Sepultura 1 month ago, and he said there were 3 bands who inspired them to create their album Roots. It was Korn, Pantera, and you. He said, yeah, this whole, let me say, groove crossover new metal movement was a huge influence. And Max Cavalera, who left and started Soulfly, he also mentioned that on the first 3 or 4 Soulfly records, that those bands were a huge influence where he lived from. So a lot of classic metal bands give you, or hardcore also, a big credits on what you did.
It's interesting. I mean, that's what I mean. Maybe on the next Prong record that I'm working on, we should focus more on that. You know. So I mean, not to say that we haven't. I mean, on 0 Days there's some of that. You know, like we don't do the whole record like that, but you know, there's elements of that old, you know, CBGB's scene in there, you know, which is, it's hard to describe to people what it was like, but it was definitely a great thing to be part of, and I'm grateful that you know, I could make some impact with my career. Otherwise, like I don't think I'd really do it anymore if I didn't feel that, you know, that it was somewhat, you know, worthwhile. You know, I mean, sometimes it gets crazy. I mean, Prong isn't the most popular band in the world, but you know, like we definitely have these moments that are enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. And so yeah, the next one, Power of the Damager.
Yeah, right now we have Aaron Rossi. This gentleman is playing drums with Prong again, filling in for Art Cruz. You know, this one. Another one that I did, the production is not that great on this, and I really don't like the record company experience that we had with Al Jorgensen's label.
Yeah.
Al is kind of a scoundrel and never paid us any money, but I mean, we were able to put this together. I mean, fan favorites on this definitely being the title track, which we still play. We're playing it tonight. And I haven't listened to it for a while, but I think it's raw, and it's one of the first. Somebody said the other day that they thought that this was the first Prong comeback record. I don't look at it that way. I think like Carved into Stone is that, but we were on our way here. I was still trying to figure things out, and a lot of people realize like during this period I was not like fully doing Prong. Like I was more like involved with ministry than Prong really at this point. So, you know, until when Carved into Stone came out, it was when Prong, I really decided, which was, you know, 6 years ago now, where I was going to put Prong full time, you know.
Nice. So yeah, the next one, the classic one.
Yeah, Rude Awakening. I mean, this was a very big disappointment as far as the response to this record. Especially the treatment we had from the record label, who dropped us after this was released, saying that they couldn't get the song Rude Awakening on the radio, so they were abandoning putting any more funds into supporting Prong. So this was another one of those messy records that for whatever astrological reasons or reasons that I think that we were putting out some bad vibes individually as guys in the band. We weren't really doing nice things in our personal life. So I think it really, maybe that created the creepiness of this record. But on the other hand, it was not, to me, this was not a successful outing. There's a couple of good songs on here, but this record influenced a lot of the new metal bands like Static X and some of the more industrial metal scene, but it's definitely not one. I mean, the song "Innocent Scan" is one of my favorites because it's very Killing Joke, but it's not one of my favorites.
I remember on your cover records you covered Killing Joke.
Yes, Seeing Red. Yes,
it's one of their newer songs. I think 2003 or 2 or something.
That's an interesting thing. It was one of the newer ones. I mean, just what Jason really wanted to do that song. I mean, that 2002 Killing Joke record is it's one of my top 10 records of all time. I just think that's a great record. I love that. I love all the Killing Joke records anyhow, so it doesn't really take that much for me to like them. Like Pylon, the last one is amazing. So, but Killing Joke's a big influence throughout. I think we were going that route more on Rude Awakening, trying to emulate Killing Joke, making it heavier, like a heavier Killing Joke record, you know?
So the next one of the newer records, Ruining Lives.
Ruining Lives, pronounced in English, yeah. You have that back on?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this was a magical record for me. To go into the more personal part of things, when I started working on this record, I was in the depths of hell in my personal life. I mean, it was like everything sort of fell apart, which means like I had a broken relationship. I didn't really have a place to live. I didn't really have that many songs written either, and I had some very big financial problems, and then I was like, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. And I sort of called out to the universe and said that, I'm just gonna try to do this somehow. And then it just magically came together, all out of nowhere. And then within a couple of weeks, all these problems sorted each other. It all worked out really well. On this record, it's a very magical experience, doing this record for me. I was like, it sort of convinced me that that Prong was supposed to be around, that what I call the art gods were looking favorable upon Prong to continue.
Yeah. One of my favorite Prong record songs ever is Windows Shut.
Oh, I like that song too. We don't play it live, but yeah.
Can you tell us what the lyric meaning is behind that song?
The lyrical meaning? Yeah, I mean, it's a dark song. It's like it just means you want to isolate, and you don't want to have anything to do with anybody, and it's a solitary song. It's about being on your own and being dark and not seeing any light. So you close all the windows and you're just being with yourself.
Nice. So yeah, let's see. Last two records. That one.
Well, yeah, Cleansing. Well, this came out now. It's out on vinyl. It's pre-orders are available for this right now on Amazon.
Yeah.
Century Media putting it out.
Yeah.
So it's available now again on vinyl. I mean, what can you say about this record? This is the record that my whole career as Prong has really been based upon. I mean, this is the most successful Prong record. And questionably the best one. I mean, this is when I talked about Rude Awakening, where it just didn't seem like the stars were aligned and everything was not in place. This was just the opposite. It's like everything was just a beautiful experience from the start, from writing the songs to going in the studio, and everything was so exciting and fresh, and we had so much fun doing it. And it was just, we knew that something was good with this, and it was groundbreaking. We experimented, and it was just like Terry Date and I really worked our butts off on this for many months, and it's one of the classics, I think, of the '90s now. Yeah.
And something very important. A couple months ago, you opened an online store, and people can order T-shirts with this cover on it, like you were now at the moment.
Yeah, I think the Cleansing one's up there. I mean, they may have been sold out of it. We have Primitive Origins, Beg to Differ, and then the Cleansing one, I think on the European store they have that up there. So it depends which one you go with, the American or the Euro one.
Yeah. So the last record, one of the newer, no, we take.
This
one.
Well, this is the first full-length Prong record, and just to tell you where this was recorded, I mean, you can't get much more Lower East Side of Manhattan than this. We actually rented a storefront, and which means a little store on the Lower East Side, and where there was. Now you go down there and you have to be a rich millionaire to walk in that neighborhood. Yeah. But back years ago, it was abandoned buildings, and we got this storefront, and we got this 8-track recording machine, and we just did it with Steve McAllister on the real cheap, this record. So it's amazing to think how we did these things years ago, and right on 6th Street in Manhattan, that was recorded at, I don't know what the hell was the name of the studio. It was Sound Mind Recording. That's what we called it. But you know, it was this was I don't know what to tell you about this record. I mean, it's sort of a grindcore record meets industrial, and it was we were really, really, really unbelievably excited about this record when it came out. I haven't listened to it in a while. We do not play any songs off this record right now, but we may you know, if anything comes and we get the two other guys back together, I'm sure we'll do Forgery and Decay, and we used to play Freezer Burn a lot.
Yeah, nice, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately our time is running out, and I have one last question.
Sure.
Because our magazine is called Moshpit Passion.
Moshpit Passion.
So do you remember your first or last mosh pit? Where it was? Which band?
Oh, last night. I mean, that I was in.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was in.
I've only been in a mosh pit once.
Yeah.
And that was in maybe 1987, and I actually went in the mosh pit for one of my favorite bands that I just seen recently again, which is Godflesh. And they played the Marquee in Manhattan, and I just couldn't resist. I went in there, and I just saw them. They played at the Psycho Fest in Vegas, which you know, I was out there playing guitar with Danzig with, and I just saw them the other day, and I was hanging out with Justin and you know, Ben. It was really cool. But that's the only and one time in the mosh pit. I'm not, dude. You know, I'm always worried about my hands getting smashed.
Mm-hmm. Nice, man. So yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
and for
man.
The interview, and see you next time, Tommy.
See ya.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy. Okay, man.
Bye.
Thanks.